Throughout history, there have been many extreme acts set forth in the name of religion, spanning from all religions across time, from the holy wars of Christianity to the zealotry of the early Jewish people in the first century, and now in the modern age, what was perhaps the biggest act of is being perpetuated in the 21st century by the Islamic State in Iran and Syria, or formerly recognized as ISIS. ISIS's roots are very deep. They date back to around their beginning. Dates back to around 2005, where it all sort of began to come together in southern Iraq in one of the biggest U.S.-run prisons, which is named Camp Bucca. And, Camp Bucca is now closed down, but during its time of operation, many senior officials to Al Qaeda were imprisoned here, the population being around 25,000. And amongst them, two individuals will become later on going to be the most prominent to have served time at this prison. The two individuals, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi and Abu al-Zarqawi. Zarqawi, he is the leader, or he was the former leader of Al Qaeda, and and Baghdadi is the leader of ISIS now. And they both, according to a study from The Guardian, which they conducted an interview with an ISIS defector in December of 2014, that during their time at Camp Bucca, out of 25 of the now top leaders in ISIS, 17 of them all served time together at this camp within the span of 2005 to 2011. And here in this picture, it just shows the camp, and in the camp they had all the inmates color coded to their, which was based off of their threat and what they had done to get put into the prison. The yellow and the orange were what the majority of the individuals there wore. You won't see too many with green or red. They were few and far in between. Here also is just another picture, kind of showing the the prison itself is very very bare, very minimalistic. Barbed wire, but they did allow for them to pray several times a day. And so during that time that these two leaders were there, Zarqawi and Baghdadi, it was really what would become known as was a perfect breeding ground for ISIS, as they were safe, and as later is gone to find out that without this environment for them to gather and discuss and plan, it really would have been impossible for them to meet up all together like that any other time or any other place, just because of how dangerous it was. So now that we know their origins and kind of where they started out, and we go on and we're going to look at what are they trying to accomplish? What is their objective? The motives for this group began simply out of opposition to the government, which was just being backed by the United States. Now, the government in Iraq is primarily led by the Shiites, and ISIS, along with Al Qaeda and many other jihadist groups, are Sunni-led. Now, as it began, they were highly opposed to the United States and working with the Shiite-led government. But now it's morphed into something that's kind of outgrown itself, and it's kind of formed its own monster now. But just for some further background information, the Sunni and the Shiite conflict is it's deeply rooted within Islam itself. It goes back to Prophet Muhammad when he is passing. Then these two they were divided on who should lead the Muslim community, and which is where we have this divide between the Sunni and the Shiites. The majority of Muslims are Sunni Muslims, which is roughly 85 to 90% of them, which is gathered from a survey from the British Broadcasting Corporation from one of their articles on ISIS, which was published in June of 2015. Now, Sunni Muslims differ themselves, or they separate themselves from Shiites as they believe that they're more traditionalist, and as so they follow Islamic law more closely. Whereas the Shiite Muslims, they've always been the minority, accounting for 1/10 of all Muslims. And even though they are the minority, there's a huge communities all through the Middle East, from Afghanistan to Kuwait to Lebanon, Pakistan, Qatar, Syria, Turkey, and the United Arab Emirates. And since ISIS has taken its place on the world stage, they've increasingly become more hostile, and the tactics that they've used have become more and more violent. One of the biggest tactics that is probably just in the news today is their use of propaganda to kind of bolster their numbers and to add an intimidation factor as well. These videos are their primary goal of these videos is to appeal to the Sunni youth in a lot of these in a lot of countries that are not necessarily in the West, but more so like in France and some places across Europe. They want to appeal to what the appeal to Sunni youth, primarily the young men. The women are not zeroed out. These videos, some might be familiar with the ones that have been in the news. The ones that depict the beheading of some of the hostages that have been taken by ISIS, such as Scott Foley and others. And so back to their current objective, as they've taken much territory across northern Iraq and through into Syria. Al-Baghdadi has stated that he wishes to establish a caliphate, which is a form of Islamic government, and which is led by a caliph, or a follower, who is to lead, who's to unify and lead the entire Muslim community. In a way, he's acting as a successor to Prophet Muhammad. So with all this taking place, many have been looking. Many countries have been looking to find an effective way to combat and deal with ISIS. Within these subsequent months, the Islamic State has gone on to force their way across much of northern Iraq and once again into Syria. And the most recent taking of the second largest city in Iraq, Mosul, has only exacerbated the tensions between not only the United States and the group, but the world as well. If you just here, in this picture is just a convoy showing the ISIS militants, this group of insurgents, and their flag is right there being held up in the second vehicle there, and it's just showing them on the move, in transition. If you go to the next one. The hyperlink isn't working.
You can paste it in.
Yeah.
Copy.
Copy and paste. And so I'm going to show, I have a map that will show it'll show, it's from the New York Times. They put together a kind of a chronological timeline of the events that have taken place in the last couple of months, but giving more of a geographical layout to kind of show, just to break it down the regions. So here on the far right, at the bottom, this is Iraq, and this is Syria here, and this is the kind of the line that they moved along the Tigris and Euphrates, just taking city after city, and just go down. Just keep rolling. And this is, and they've kind of just blown it up just to gather the chronology of it, but it has, you know, this is within their beginning, which is back, you know, almost a decade. So this right here, this is which better shows their path. And the most recent taking of the second biggest city in Iraq, Mosul, here, and the control of their dam has really heightened the tensions as they've captured not only the second biggest city, but they're also crossing. They've already spanned across borders, so they're within two countries now. Many things have been many ideas have been put forth, things have been done to combat them, but means of effectively doing so has not necessarily been reached yet. Some of the things that have been done are coalition airstrikes. Some of them have been U.S. led, others we've been a part of. And the purpose of these airstrikes is to strike key ISIS territories. Our main target are specific leaders of the group. The United States has also considered the possibility of putting forth ground troops if necessary, to combat the threat. And there have been also the only thing that really has been effective thus far. There are the unmanned drone strikes that have been sanctioned by the United States against some of the key territories around what they're using as their capital, Raqqa, in Syria, and around up closer to the border of Turkey, where it's kind of more of a concentrated area. But here in the United States, we've kind of come to a deadlock, gridlock of what we should do. The House, once again, is divided between Democrats' fear of post 9/11 Bush policy if we are to deploy ground forces in Iraq and Syria, while the Republicans they are for the possibility of ground deployment if necessary to effectively combat them. While the situation in Iraq and Syria is far from being over, the ISIS continues to grow each day. As the country really, the world really still is trying to scramble for an effective way to handle this group. And while they scramble, at the same time, a lot of focus is being put on the U.S. as the world waits what our answer is.